Hey guys, this is Paul with rcFoamFighters. Today this video is just going to be a quick video about 50mm EDFs. Last weekend I did the maiden flight of the 50mm version of the FF-117V2, and I wasn't really happy with the overall performance of the 50mm EDF that I had in the plane. The one I have in the plane right now is the Dr. Mad Thrust 50mm EDF. This one is actually a discontinued motor, but I had like 4 or 5 of them on hand, so I just used it. But I wanted to do an upgrade to the EDF that's in the plane, so I found one on Amazon. This is kind of similar to the one I did on the previous 50mm EDF FF-117 I did. It's a PowerFun 50mm EDF, and it has a little bit higher ratings, at least on paper. So I was going to do a couple tests to kind of just see how these motors perform. So let's get into the video. Okay, first off, let's kind of cover some of the differences between these two EDFs. Basically, the Dr. Mad Thrust one, it does look a little bit nicer because it is an aluminum housing with the aluminum spinner on there. The PowerFun one is pretty much all plastic. The Dr. Mad Thrust one has a 10-blade EDF. The PowerFun one has an 11-blade EDF, and I don't know if you can kind of tell the differences. You know, the Dr. Mad Thrust one definitely has a lot more space between the blades. Okay, one of the other big differences is the Dr. Mad Thrust one was an in-runner motor, and it was only rated at 3300 kV. The PowerFun one has an outrunner motor. That means, you know, the outside of the motor spins. On the in-runner, the inside of the motor spins. So usually outrunners have a little bit more torque because they got a bigger mass that's spinning. So the PowerFun motor, you know, being an outrunner, it's rated at 4300 kV. So that's 1,000 more kV than the in-runner. So that's going to give you a lot more RPMs per volt. So, you know, not only having more blades, but also a higher RPM, that's definitely going to should give more thrust. So here's the specs that were included inside the box of the Dr. Mad Thrust motor. So again, it's only rated at 3300 kV. It's the 4S version. Weight, they say, is 97 grams. We'll test that. I'll weigh it. They say the thrust output is up to 650 grams of thrust, and the max current is up to 27 amps. Okay, here's the paper that came with the PowerFun motor. I have the 4S version, which is rated at 4300 kV. Max current, it's rated all the way up to 40 amps, so that's quite a bit more than the 27 amps of the Dr. Mad Thrust. And the max thrust is rated up to 650 grams or 950 grams. Versus the 650 grams for the Dr. Mad Thrust. So that's another 300 grams of thrust according to the paper that comes with the PowerFun. This one, it does have a wattage rating of 670 watts, and they're saying it's only 77 grams, so they're saying it's lighter also. I now have both of the 50mm EDFs all set up with cardstock thrust tubes. So this is not going to be a total scientific test, but basically just to get some readings off the watt and amp meter that I have. I got an old Turnigy watt and amp meter, and I have 2 new batteries. Basically these are 4S 1500 milliamp hour 120C batteries. Ovonic is a brand I have never tried before. I got these off Amazon. I'll put the link in the video notes if anyone's interested in them. Okay, for this test, I have an old Turnigy Deluxe 40 amp ESC. I think it has a burst rate of up to 50 amps for 10 seconds. And then I just got that wired to a servo tester, and then we'll connect it to the batteries. So first up, we're going to test the old Dr. Mad Thrust 50mm motor I had, you know, just to kind of get a baseline to see what it's putting out. We'll see what it puts out on the watt and amp meter. Okay guys, test number 1 with the 50mm Dr. Mad Thrust EDF on a 4S battery. Okay guys, here's the numbers that the motor just pulled. 436 watts, 27.48 amps, and the voltage drop went down to 15.77. Okay guys, this is going to be test number 2 with the PowerFun 50mm EDF on a 4S battery. Wow, you could definitely hear the difference. This motor definitely sounded like it was winding up more, and I could feel it in my hand pulling a little bit harder. So let's look at the numbers. Okay guys, here are the numbers that the PowerFun motor pulled. 38.77 amps, voltage drop 15.22 volts, 596 watts. Here's another look at the test results. I put it into an Excel spreadsheet so you can kind of see it a little bit easier. I also added a couple tests that I did while the EDF was in the plane with two different batteries. You can see in this result with the ones that were in the plane were actually a little bit less, so being in the plane does take away a little bit of the efficiency, at least in static air. It might pick up some of that efficiency back when the air is rushing into the air ducts. But anyway, here's the chart. Like I said, you know, with the 1300 milliamp power drone battery in the plane, it was only pulling 375 watts. With the 1500 milliamp hour battery, it picked up a little bit more. It went up to 390 watts. And then outside of the plane, you know, just holding that EDF in my hand for the Dr. Mad thrust, the max was 436 watts. So if you go down to the PowerFun 4S 50mm EDF, you know, outside the plane is the only test I have right now, and that was pulling 596 watts. So again, that's, you know, quite a bit increase. Also the amps, you know, outside the plane was 27.48 amps for the Dr. Mad thrust. Outside the plane, the PowerFun was 38.77 amps. So it's, you know, it's definitely using a bit more power, and kind of just holding it in my hand and listening to the sound of the EDFs, it definitely sounded and felt like the PowerFun one was putting out a little more power. So I will be building a new FF-117V2 50mm plane with this new motor and new battery, and hopefully we'll see how it flies compared to the other one. I'm thinking it should fly a bit better with a bit more power. Okay guys, you know, this is pretty much a non really scientific test, but it just kind of shows a little bit of the differences between EDFs that are out there. Definitely if you're building the FF-117 50mm EDF, you know, try and find one that puts out, like I said, at least 750 grams of thrust or better. You know, if you can find one up around the 900 grams of thrust, you definitely should have over 1-to-1 power to weight ratio, and it should make it fly a bit better. So that's what I'm hoping, and you know, that's kind of what I'm going forward with this PowerFun 50mm EDF. So I will be building a new plane soon, and hopefully get out to test fly it. Thanks for watching rcFoamFighters. See you guys again soon.